Mexico decriminalizes abortion. On September 7th, Mexico's Supreme Court ruled that a statute requiring a 3-year prison sentence for women who get abortions was unconstitutional. The ruling marks a new precedent for the Mexican legal system and is binding upon other states which have not yet legalized abortion. Women's rights activists in Mexico called the ruling a watershed moment. While this does not mean that abortion is decriminalized, that's a very important distinction, it is not yet fully legal in Mexico, and access to, I said, well, it does mean that abortion is decriminalized, it is not yet fully legal in Mexico, and access to care remains a major issue. With nearly 100 million practicing Catholics, there was a great deal of backlash from the religious community. The National Action Party, an ultra-right-wing political party, condemns the court's decision, claiming they will defend, quote, life from the moment of conception until natural death, end quote. So this is one of those news stories that isn't like directly religiously related, but it's something I wanted to make sure to cover because it is obviously an issue that's very much in the news right now in terms of reproductive rights, particularly in regard to Texas's ban on abortions after 6 weeks or as soon as a fetal heartbeat is detected. So that's not technically making it illegal full scale in Texas. Like technically it is before that point, but many women don't even know that they're pregnant at the point that it becomes illegal. What was I trying to say? It's important to cover these issues because a lot of the contention surrounding it is obviously very religiously motivated. When I was studying for this news, I was actually surprised to learn that Mexico has the second largest population of Catholics in the world, only seconded by Brazil, actually. And with such a strong Roman Catholic community and the power that church has over the community, this is obviously very contentious. Something along the lines of like, I think 3/4 of the country is Catholic. And but some articles and analysts I was reading were saying that because of such widespread sexual abuse or the scandals surrounding it in the country, but also just in general, there's been a diminishing power of the church over Mexico. And I've seen some reports saying that people are leaving or becoming more religious at rates faster than we've ever seen before. Like the non-religious population of Mexico is growing rapidly. So that's something I really look forward to. Because Mexico is ostensibly a secular state. And so, of course, that needs to be protected. That secularism needs to be protected. Mustafa is saying, I think Mexico wants the Colorado effect. When this one thing is legally more accessible, more tourism. By neighbors, I should add. Oh, so what Mustafa is getting at is when Colorado legalized marijuana, it's become a huge tourist industry. And they're actually, I wasn't able to get into digging. I have seen news articles talking about the possibility of women in Texas to go to Mexico for these procedures. I actually can't give you an answer on how feasible that is because, of course, under Texas law, anyone who aids and abets that process can still be sued. So that would still be a huge issue unless you do it like completely under the radar, which I would imagine would be somewhat difficult. And even though this is decriminalized in Mexico, that doesn't mean that it's fully legal, right? So it wouldn't necessarily be like a legal tourist industry, right? And not only is it not legal in many places, well, now it's not, it's decriminalized, not legal. So even with this contention, it's not actually accessible in many states across Mexico. And off the top of my head, I don't know if this Mexican states that are right along the border are the states where you have higher access versus lesser access. Because presumably someone's not trying to go all the way to southern Mexico to get this procedure if they can avoid it, right? They'd want to just go hop across to TJ or something. Tijuana, for those who aren't familiar. Do you guys have any other commentary on this news or thoughts on it? Besides just pointing out that I've taken over. I saw a comment from Ghost Bunny. Ghost Bunny is saying, good, Mexico is decriminalizing while Texas is trying to make it illegal. Why do I feel like the US is heading backwards? Well, part of the problem is that, of course, they've specifically actually, I'm going to get into this in the next news, but it's constructed in a way that makes the judicial review of this new SB 8 Texas bill very difficult to challenge legally. And there are at least 7 states that are considering copying it. So they've tried to find a way where legally they can completely just hollow out Roe v. Wade while still technically having Roe v. Wade be, I guess, a federal mandate. That might not be the correct legal language. But still, they're trying to find as many ways as possible to still get what they want while Roe v. Wade is technically in effect. So if Texas is successful in protecting this provision that they passed, there are several states in the country that would be heading backwards for sure. I'm not a legal expert, but my understanding is that at this point it would become very much a states' rights issue. So there'd be certain states where you can get this sort of medical care, but other ones where you couldn't. I know that if there were states, if somehow Roe v. Wade was flat out overturned, as opposed to just hollowed out to be a shell of its former self, if it was somehow overturned, there are many states across the country where they have like extreme abortion provisions, anti-abortion provisions already on the books. So in the case that it was straight up overturned, there'd be really draconian laws already there, because technically those laws are on the book now, but there's, this federal precedent, which makes them invalid. But if that federal precedent was to ever get overturned, suddenly these would come roaring back into effect. And I would remind you guys to take all that with a grain of salt, because my understanding might not be completely correct. And Mustafa is saying, by the way, I proposed a question way back regarding the U.S. slowly turning into theocracy. Any takebacks? No, I don't take it back. Whether there are certain states that want to turn into their own mini theocracies is kind of like a different question. And the real problem is the attitude of the Supreme Court. So I would really suggest you guys go listen to an episode of Secular Jihadists for the Middle East, for Muslim Enlightenment, that I just did with Ali Rizvi as a co-host. And we had our guest was Andrew Seidel, who is the director of strategic legal affairs or something like that at the Freedom from Religion Foundation. And we talk about his position that Roe v. Wade is dead, and he contends that they're going to come for contraception as a whole next. And his view is that in terms of turning into a theocracy, a real problem is the power that the Supreme Court has, and how they are so willing to hold inconsistent standards and therefore demonstrate Christian privilege. So that's the real problem here is this pretty overt effort to privilege Christian ideology. But go listen to that episode. I had a lot of fun doing that. Steven on LinkedIn, guys, we're streaming on LinkedIn, said, well, we need to talk about Mexico in comparison to the US protocol and procedure, as well as rights and freedom of choice. Yes, we need to discuss human rights in this regard. I'm not 100% sure what you're getting at here, but I do believe that reproductive health access is a human right. It's extremely important for women at large, particularly in regard to just like birth control. This is something that's impacted my life because birth control is prescribed to many women for things outside of actually controlling or preventing pregnancy. It's prescribed to women who have a whole host of pelvic pain or hormonal disorders or problems. And so the idea that some people just want to fully outright just get rid of all birth control is terrifying to me because there's so many people who actually depend on that for medical care outside of preventing pregnancies. Not that there's anything wrong with using it to prevent pregnancies, but it's shocking to me how limited some people's scope or idea of what these drugs are or can be used for is. It does a huge disservice to millions of people. AGA is asking, does this law go against women who leave the state for abortion? Are you talking about the Texas provision? So anyone, not even Texans, can sue, I believe, any Texan, because they are within the jurisdiction of the state. This is my understanding, it could be wrong, who aids and abets. So it's not even specifically the woman who's getting it. It's you can go after anyone who is aiding the process. So this could even be like someone who goes with you to hold your hand during the procedure, to all the way to someone who drove you in a car to get the procedure, to the actual provider of the procedure itself. And there's in the process of anyone, getting an abortion, it could be the receptionist who picks up a phone, to schedule an appointment. There could be dozens of people who are involved with any one procedure potentially. Let's see what else you guys are talking about. I didn't even realize that abortion was criminalized in Mexico. Oh yeah, it was very intense. Let me find this. Let me find a quote about exactly what the precedent was before this. Give me one moment. 4 of Mexico's 32 federal entities have broadly legalized the procedure. So the places where it is legal is Oaxaca, Veracruz, Hidalgo, and of course Mexico City. Abortion has also been available to women who became pregnant through RAPE. I'm not saying that because of the YouTube algorithm. There was one state where actually, even in the case of RAPE, it wasn't allowed, which is shocking to me. But that's the case in Texas now as well, which is terrifying. Which is actually a harsher penalty than, or harsher restriction than actually Saudi Arabia. Fun fact. Even like really, harsh Islamic countries that people have, the very restrictive worldview or perception of, like they give exceptions for RAP and incest. So, yikes. Let's let's see what else you guys are talking about. Insane secularity saying, yes, it could be the Uber driver, even if the driver doesn't know. In Texas, yes, that's a huge problem. But Lyft and Uber have said that they are going to completely cover any legal expenses incurred by any drivers of their independent contractors. So that's some good news. Hey guys, if you're a fan of Blasphemy and Sexy Callie, like me, then you need to be sure to subscribe to our newsletter, link in the description below. Because if you subscribe, we will send you a free copy of our Blasphemous Art ebook. And let me tell you, it is the tastiest blasphemy that you can find anywhere available today. And we are so generous with our blasphemy that we continue to send you more blasphemy every week. So make sure to subscribe, link in the description below.